Good morning, Bill.
Loading. Good morning.
What are you loading?
Myself.
Yourself? Was it
Loading
another late
up.
night of hanging out with like fake football heroes and Team Tebow and all
I
that?
try to keep that to once a week,
Once a
It's
week?
yeah.
I
I
can
don't
see
want to
that.
overload. Yeah,
How was
because
yesterday?
you can only flex so much.
Your recovery just becomes unbearable. You just have to sleep so much, make up for all that late night partying.
It is. And then people like really start hating you, even though they say they like you. So it's like, you want to keep on people's decent side. So no,
Absolutely.
I'm good. I'm good. I actually had good recovery yesterday. We're gonna turn into those like whoop nerds on the air, aren't we?
Oh,
Like,
of course we are.
what's
Yeah,
your string
absolutely.
yesterday?
Yeah.
Did you hit 11.5?
I'm talking about this until they send me a shirt or something, right? Since I can't seem to get a LinkedIn hoodie, I should be able to at least get a hoodie from Whoop.
I was about to say it because if you can't get a LinkedIn hoodie, you can get a whoop one.
Exactly. That's the one I'm going for. It's more elite. There's fewer of them out in the world.
Meaning they don't exist.
Yes, exactly. Yes, right. How'd it go yesterday, man?
It went well. All sorts of interesting moving pieces going on with the new job. So we can talk more about that probably next week. And then calls were good. Offboarded a client yesterday. So that was a good conversation. We got all that taken care of. So I'm good, man. What about you?
It was fairly light as far as days go yesterday. I was going to do some additional reach outs. And once again, no, didn't actually happen. So I got my 6 in, but I was going to do 10 so I didn't have to do any today, but didn't really go that way. So I'm going to do some more today. I got my 30 minutes of movement in. We bought this thing called a Whipper, which is like a Kickstarter GoFundMe thing, Indiegogo thing, and it's like this like little travel workout device, right? And so we waited like a year for it, and now we've had it for about a year, and we've not really done a whole lot with it. So yesterday I spent 30 minutes rowing on it, so it's packable and nice.
Let's see that.
Good morning, Mike. It should be on FB. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but interesting. I'm getting some good questions from some people for our guest today. So should we move into that? You have anything else for this week?
No, I hit my goals. I don't know if you hit your goals, but
I did. Yeah.
So unfortunately, no payoff. Sorry, guys.
No payouts this week, guys. We're not funding things we would rather not fund. So the money stays safely in our pockets for
no
other
burpees
things.
for Dylan. So
no burpees. Yeah, nothing. So
yeah, let's do it.
Let's bring on our guest. This is exciting, guys. Let's bring on Will. Speaking of LinkedIn hoodies.
What?
Oh, ultimate flex. Rocked up in that.
Man.
Read the hoodie.
Oh my gosh.
Will says I wake up in LinkedIn hoodies.
I love this hoodie that much.
How are you, man?
I'm so good. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
You're more than welcome, man. I'm excited that you're here. Can you tell everybody who might be watching this who doesn't already know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, it's hard to describe kind of, but my name is Will. I work at a company called SalesFeed, and my pretty much full-time job right now is creating sales content. But, beyond that, I've been in sales for, B2B sales for about 7 years now. So I've used all of that time and experience to try and make the most relatable, helpful content for the people of LinkedIn and TikTok.
How much better is it to be focused on like video creation and not the grind of, pipeline and stages and what are you committing? And
I love sales. So actually, to be honest, I miss it sometimes. And it does, if you're not closing deals, and luckily I've just started going back out to market and selling some products now.
Mm-hmm.
But you do start to feel like a bit of an imposter after a while if you're talking about sales and not doing it. And I think that's what happens to a lot of sales trainers out there who come a bit out of touch and don't sell frequently enough.
Mm-hmm.
It can start their advice and posts can start becoming a little bit out of touch. And that was my fear. But luckily, I've been able to keep the sword sharp.
Awesome. Do you catch crap from your sales buddies? The guys you came up with, the guys you trained with, the guys, are they giving it to you and that now you're the video guy and not on the grind?
No, I mean, maybe because they're all Canadian and very nice because I live in Canada.
Right.
But they're super supportive. Like I honestly, when you first start posting on stuff, like no one cares what you have to say. And those friends in that inner circle are the ones who support and keep you going. So they've actually been, all my friends have been super supportive, actually.
That's very cool.
Nice.
Very,
Very
cool.
cool.
What do you think? I think where was the transition? Where did it happen? Where you started going, I'm going to start creating something other than just, a 600-word post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so it was about like April of last year, and I made a meme and put it on LinkedIn, like, oh, should I start sending TikToks to prospects as a sales strategy? And it got like 50 likes, which back in the day when I had no followers was a lot to me. And I was like, maybe there's something here. So then I just went to start creating content on TikTok and reposting on LinkedIn, and people went wild for it because it wasn't something they'd seen. These days, you don't have to scroll far on LinkedIn to see a portrait video, but back then you didn't. So I did that while I was selling. And because I was selling to sales leaders, this sales content was resonating with my customers while I was in cycle with them. And I was seeing direct kickback, kind of relationships being built offline while I wasn't on calls with them. And so I doubled down on that, and it actually really helped me build my pipeline and improve my close rates. And then I got tapped by my current boss and was like, "Will, your content's great. Do you want to do that full time?" And at first I was like, marketing, the classic sales kind of. I was like, I even sent him a message. Oh, it'll make me cringe if I tell you, but I sent my now boss a message saying, "Hey Tyler, I'm way too good at sales to do marketing." It was like this arrogant message. And then I was the top performer on my team, and I asked my boss for a promotion, and he said no. And like a spoiled toddler, I was like, "Fine then, I will take Tyler up in the company." And then,
Man,
yeah.
As salespeople, we can be incredibly short-sighted with that. Oh, you want to change the comp plan on me? Okay, bro. Like, let's just go see someone's hiring for sales
you just
roles.
lost your top performer. Like that. That classic, yeah. So I mean, I was a little bit spoiled, but then when I actually spoke to Tyler about the role, and I figured out that like my hobby, which was creating content, could become a full-time thing, I was like, okay, you know what, this is incredible, and the earning potential was still in the,
Sure.
That's the big thing about a lot of people who are in sales. Switching careers means generally a pay cut.
Yep.
Luckily for me, that didn't happen.
Man,
Has it gotten harder for you to make content now that you're required to do it? Because like when you're just like rolling it off and it's kind of like off the cuff stuff, it's like, oh, that was good, that was pretty good. Now it's like a grind.
I think I've got a little bit better. I think it's kind of like a muscle. Like anything with repetition, you kind of get better, and and there's also like live feedback with content, so you know what's working and what to double down on. I won't lie. The ideas are harder to come up with, especially when you're not selling every day in the trenches. Like thinking, oh, that probably happens to a lot of people. But the way I get around that is absorbing content in other places. So reading posts on LinkedIn, watching John's TikToks, reading sales books, those kinds of things. And that's what helps me stay inspired and keeps giving me ideas.
And so you still tied in pretty heavily with the sales team now, where you can tap them too for ideas?
Not really. I maybe it's something I should be doing way more, but like the comments generally give me a lot of ideas as well. And that comes from a sales audience. People are like, oh, it'd be so funny if you did this. And I'm like, hey, do you mind if I actually take that idea and steal that? Because that's incredible, right? So that's something that probably happens more often than me actually going and asking people for ideas.
Cool.
So you do a lot of funny content and use humor, and I want to talk about that. But then you also do a lot of just kind of honest feedback of how to grow TikTok, how to use the content that you're using for TikTok in other ways and stuff like that. What do you think the biggest lesson, right? Like if someone has never published a video, they've never been on LinkedIn, they've never been on TikTok, and they want to go in that way, you're going to give them one actionable piece of advice, not like a mindset thing of just try hard, actionable thing. What would that thing be?
If you were to go on TikTok today and start a new account, what my one piece of advice? Have I got that right? Yeah. I would say you got to think about the reasons why people open up TikTok, and it's not to go and watch a podcast or a webinar or anything along those lines. Generally, people are looking to learn something really quick or have a quick laugh. So I would say just get to the point. Just say the point. One thing's enough, and then just keep doing that. Keep your videos short. Every video I've had that's had over 500,000 views has been less than 30 seconds, with the exception of one. So, short is the meta on TikTok.
So the hard part with humor is it going to land? Is it going to be funny, right? So do you have a vetting process, an approval process? Do you have like an inner circle of like, okay, guys, I'm going to post this, but I need to show it to you first, make sure it's funny. Do you have anything like that?
I did, and then the people got bored of me asking. They're like, yeah, it's funny, just do it. But there is a lot of that self-doubt, right? Sometimes when you work really hard on something and you've watched it 10 times because you're editing it and whatnot, you're like, is this even good?
Yeah.
And most of the time it is. But you do have that self-doubt, and you do ask that. But then even if it's not, and I do miss, it may not seem like it, but if you scroll along, sometimes you'll just see a video just didn't land.
Mhm.
Maybe I was being too smart for my own good, or maybe I was being too simple for my own good as well. And when that does happen, I used to get really upset about it. Like, oh, my video didn't do well, right? But then I realized that because it didn't do well, barely anyone saw it, so it didn't really matter, right? That's always the perspective I take on that. So I don't let it get me down.
Does that get easier? Is it like rejection in sales, and it's easier to move on when you've got some pipeline and you got some depth and stuff?
That'd be a really good analogy. Like it does, if you only have one video ready and you put it out there and it flops, then yeah, that sucks. But if you have a full pipeline full of videos, let's say, and you know you've got 6 more that are still going to probably be quite good, well, then you're in a better spot. It's a great way to compare it. Yeah.
Awesome. So you spent some time in Australia before moving to Canada.
Yeah.
What were you doing in Australia? Just working, just traveling, being a bum, all of the above?
I was being a bum, backpacking, finding myself, and instead I found a Canadian wife, which is how I ended up in North America. But I did spend some time in Australia, so a couple of years there.
Nice. This is a flawed question. I should ask this better, but of UK and of the Australian, of Canada, which one like do you think of as home? Like, do you still think of the UK as home? Because you were young when you moved, I think, right? Like I think I saw somewhere you were like 10 when you left the UK.
No, I was 20 when I went to Australia, so I was young. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
for context, I'm 27 now. So yeah, when I went to Australia, yeah, I would say I sometimes catch myself saying UK is home. But I've been in Canada for 4 years now. Bought property, got a family, kids, and everyone on the way. So this has really become home to me now. But sometimes when I'm referring to like, oh, we'll go back home for a week next year, that kind of catches me sometimes.
Sure.
But I certainly identify as British for sure.
So we got to talk about this thing that I've never experienced, but apparently is like a big thing, right?
Yeah.
In Australia, there's a version of this spread. You know the name of it.
Vegemite?
And then
we're talking about?
Yes. And then there's a British version of this thing. And both of these things are, from my reading of this topic and conversations with other British folks, heavily polarized. You either love this stuff or you hate this stuff.
That's their marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Which is
really?
Yeah. So like
it's literally their marketing campaign.
In Australia it's called Vegemite, and it tastes very similar to the UK version, which is Marmite. Die-hard fans are probably going to say they're different, but to me they both taste like bitter brown spread, right? And it's really, you put it in your mouth, you're and like in the UK, Marmite's entire marketing campaign is you love it or you hate it, which in a way is genius, right? It's polarizing. Yeah. It's kind of like being in sales and being like, we're not a fit for everyone, right? But that makes us a really good fit for the people who do love us.
Yeah.
So yeah, Marmite and Vegemite to me are horrible. I wouldn't eat it if you paid me $10, right? But I know people who eat it with a spoon. Crazy people. My mum loves it. She loves it with Marmite on toast. Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah, you can get it here in Canada, but it's like $10 a jar because it's like a,
and you don't even like it anyway.
And I don't even like it anyway. No. So
yeah, man. This Garen fellow is just taking it to you in these comments. He's saying you can't close. You don't have any coffee. He says that your accent is fake. Dylan is talking about you fighting kangaroos over here. We've got we have some static going on in the comments. Yeah, this is awesome.
Garen's all right. He's trying to say my accent's fake. No, Garen, I am British. I went to Australia for a bit, so I have a twang, and now I live in Canada.
A twang.
Wow. That's going to end up being some sort of thing for your kids. Your kids are going to pull something out of that, and
Yeah, my son, he's just learning to talk now, and like
Mm-hmm.
I take it. His mum doesn't like this, but I like take him off. I'm like, okay, should we practice some words now? Aluminium.
Schedule.
Give him all the truth, but all, not all. Oh, yeah, it's good.
Would you like a glass of water?
So, judging by the wall behind you, and this is not really a business question. I'm just curious as a parent. A little bit of a Star Wars fan, I'm assuming, just from all the lightsabers and masks and things I've seen on your TikToks. How much is it going to crush you if your kid doesn't enjoy Star Wars?
That was it. That was the answer.
I think that says it all, right? He already likes Star Wars. Me and him will grab a couple of these and we'll just like have a duel. So and he's not big yet, so he knows what a lightsaber is before he knows what Star Wars is, if you know what I mean. So he's already
that's very fair.
That's how you indoctrinate. That's great. That's a great start.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm having
my daughter.
I know she's probably not going to be as keen.
My daughter's 10, and she doesn't like Star Wars. She doesn't like Star Trek. She doesn't like any of like the nerd canon. And I'm like, I'm distraught some days. Like I don't know what to do with myself. And so I know like your love for Star Wars is probably more than like my love for like all the random nerd culture things that I enjoy. So I'm curious, like if your kid shows up one day and he's like, Dad, I don't want this anymore, and just like hands you the lightsaber back.
That's up to him, you know. Like him and the next one who's a girl, like they can do whatever they want. They don't have to like the same things as me. That said, I will make an effort to push it on them. Like, but if they push back, I'm like, fine, then that's all right. You're not cool. You're not one of the cool kids, like Dad. You know, go hang out with Mum. Why don't you go? Why don't you go check out? I don't know what's Mum interested in.
All of that negative psychology that works in sales doesn't work on kids. They're like, all right, cool, and you just die a little bit inside.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Do a negative reverse on the kid to try.
Yes, exactly.
Seems like Star Wars isn't a fit for you, buddy. How about that?
When you are so when you publish a video, do you have any kind of like, I'm going to check this in an hour, I'm going to check this in 30 minutes and check stats? Do you delete stuff if it doesn't get traction? What does that first hour after hitting publish look like for Will? Are you just like lying in a closet and hoping people are watching, or like you watching metrics? What do you do?
I used to care a lot more than I do now. But now I kind of just go post and walk away. Not to say that when I post something, I will often. I don't only just manage my account. So I have my account. I manage Sales Feed's account. I manage a couple of clients as well now. Nice. So I'm probably on the app more than I should be, but I'm not really like watching like a hawk. If something flops, then it flops, right? And the same thing I said earlier. If it's bad, well, no one saw it, so it's all good. The only things I do delete is sometimes I make a misstep. Right? Sometimes I say something that I don't realize, or maybe in hindsight wasn't funny, or I'm making a joke at the expense of someone, but I haven't done that maliciously, but someone's pointed out to me. So I had a video a little while back and with a guy called Nick Capozzi, who's in this. I met with him in Denver and we made a video together. And in that video, we poked fun at each other. And I was like, looks like you've been having pizza for lunch a lot lately. And he was like, still got the gym membership? Doesn't look like it. And then someone commented like these comments.
I saw that video. Yeah.
Yeah. So someone was like, these comments could be considered, fatphobic or offensive to some people. I was like, yeah, it's actually quite a good, you've got to be careful when you get to a position, because it's so easy these days with cancel culture that you do have to, you have to listen to people, right? And it'd be easy to be like, oh no, you're just being soft. But really, when you're doing this professionally, you got to receive that feedback and ask questions and take the opportunity to learn. So if in those scenarios, I might take a step back and take it down. But other than that, no, not really. I don't delete posts anymore. But I used to a lot because I was embarrassed. I almost deleted one of my best performing posts because in the first half an hour I had 4 likes, and I was like, oh. It was on LinkedIn. I was like, this is embarrassing, and it was one that was a little bit risky as well because I appeared topless from the chest up in the video. I thought, oh, this might be offensive, people might be a bit outraged by this. And then, like 45 minutes, it suddenly had 100 likes, and then it had 3,000. And this was on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, that was my first ever like proper viral post. So I'm glad I didn't take it down. And that to me is like a lesson. Just leave it up. It might help one person if it's advice, and that's great.
That's man. So first of all, I think it would have been super easy to just lash out at this person who's like trying to give you feedback and trying to be helpful, right? Because like you pour yourself into it, you hit post, and then oh man, this is offensive. Well, you just don't know what you're talking about and stuff. Where do you think that line is between humor and being PC?
I think like it's about understand. I don't think you've always be willing to listen to other people's perspectives, even if you think they're wrong. I think that's where a lot of learning comes when you maybe disagree with someone. So to me, at first, I did read that. I was like, oh, you're just being sensitive, right? But then like they were actually someone who I kind of knew, so I reached out to them and said, hey, like, I'd love to have a chat about this, and opened it up. I've had people reach out to me like that in the past, like that video was in poor taste, or like I did a review on a piece of software once, and I was a little bit harsh. So reached out to me, was like, this isn't going to be good for your personal brand. And I jumped on a call with them just to hear what they had to say. Now, those things, so when I think about, there's like a category of stuff you should just be very careful of. Like the obvious topics that you should be careful around.
Your Thanksgiving table, right?
Yeah, Thanksgiving table, exactly, right? I don't even try and touch those things, right? But that list sometimes grows beyond what you actually even know. So, for example, the Fat Phobic comment thing, right? That to me was like something that I wasn't actively thinking about, whereas I am actively thinking about because I don't talk about politics and race and religion. So to me, those things are more obvious. Where was I going with this? Stop. But the other things you got to be willing to open it, hear people out, and there's other stuff as well. I get hate comments and troll comments; those are different. Yeah. So like a lot of people don't like salespeople, especially on TikTok. There's a lot of kids on there. There's a lot of people who have never worked in sales; they just don't understand. There's a whole category of people who don't even know what B2B sales is. Yeah. They just hear sales and they think, oh, insurance, cars, and to those people, I like to troll them back a little bit because it's just I've learned that asking all the questions in the world and like trying to. Some people are like, oh yeah, you should embrace the trolls. I'm like, no, let's troll them back because that gives me a little bit of joy, me making fun of someone who doesn't understand like that sales. Everyone's in sales, right? And they're like, sales people are the worst. And I'm like, well, you've had some bad experiences, but you know,
we're not all terrible. Yeah. All right, so we have a direct question. Is that a Vincero watch?
This is a Tissot, so no, it's not.
Okay, interesting.
I do have my Rolex. I don't have it anywhere near my desk, but I want to pull that out because I like flexing that thing because it doesn't fit me anymore. My wrist grew, and getting an extra strap added to a Rolex is stupid expensive. So I leave it in a case now. And that's my fault for having fat wrists. Back in the day, it didn't even
well, I mean, if you'd showed up in a LinkedIn hoodie and a Rolex, you would have broke the internet.
That's true. That's true. So yes.
I admire the choice.
With all the lightsabers on as well, wearing the Mandalorian helmet.
Yeah, just all turned on. Like you're more like ready for the chat than we are.
I would do that more often, but they are so loud when they're all on. So like you just can't hear a thing that's going on. Otherwise, I'd have them on more often.
Yeah,
I bet. Jake, man. Jump in. I know you have some questions, marketing side of this stuff. I'm going to shut up for a second.
Yeah, well, I hate those marketing guys. What are you talking about? So, I mean, I think you did say something interesting earlier about how, when you jumped onto the video side, you're like, oh, marketing. I'm such a good salesman. Why would I go over there? And there's a whole kind of like push now for, and Sean, I've been talking about this for years, is sales and marketing should be one team. Like they should literally be having the same conversation. We're just in different stages together, right? So like your best friend should be the salesperson if you're the marketer and vice versa. Yeah. And so that's why I asked the question earlier about, are you talking to the sales team about what they're hearing? So what do you think it is? I mean, this is an obvious, I'm giving you a lob for a follow-up. What is it about the sales marketing relationship that is so contentious that people just don't want to get past right now? Like where's the start of that conversation right now? Why is that such a big deal? It just seems really weird.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I think it's there's a lot of bad history there. So maybe just take a step back. I find marketers who have been salespeople are some of the best marketers I know, and salespeople who understand marketing are some of the best salespeople I know. Those two skills and understanding the full customer journey is really a great skill. Now, I think part of the reason why there's that misalignment between sales and marketing, everyone calls it marketing alignment, right? Is because they're being measured on two different things. I think when you get too close to the metrics, at that point, that's when the issues. It's like the MQLs and that kind of stuff that don't come from that. and marketers who don't really understand what a lead actually is. I find it's often the people who are like, from a sales perspective, the marketers who upset me are the ones who don't really understand what any level of intent is. So yeah, a contact detail, an email, and a phone number is not a lead if they have no interest or no interest.
Sure.
So to me, like if they download an ebook that has very little to do with what we do, right? If they download an ebook that says here's how to solve problem, and that's a problem that our product help with, that has intent to me. But there's this weird misalignment where other things, like they open an email which has nothing to do with our product that we sent them. So that's I think the measurement of those metrics. And on the flip side, as marketers, if there's not that understanding, or if sales aren't willing to spend the time and invest in the leads that you've generated, in some cases, then that can be frustrating as well, because a lot of work goes into that.
Yeah.
And even if they are great leads, sales just sometimes don't take them seriously. They leave time to follow up, or they kind of call them once and drop them, and then that's a potential, if they do have intent, a potential opportunity that's been missed out on. So I think that's the issue. And I think there really needs to be it comes down to leadership, how willing they are to talk to each other and pass that down to their teams, I think.
Yep.
And I think that there's just been a lot of stereotypes over the years where people in marketing and sales have kind of grown to not be aligned for whatever reason. But I've worked on teams where the sales leader and the VP of marketing are like that. And then you've got this amazing flow where you like every lead that comes in that actually lands on you, probably because of some genius in RevOps, is actually worth calling, and you're actually excited by the leads, not, it's another thing I have to do.
Yeah, so it sounds like partially what you're saying is bad salespeople and bad marketers have given the relationship a bad name altogether, but the good ones understand on both sides of the coin.
And I think it even might even go above the marketing and the sales leader. It's the leader at the very, very top of the business. How are you measuring success for the whole business, right?
100%.
If you're these arbitrary goals that don't mean anything, you need to generate this number of leads. We know what happens when you tell sales reps they need to make 200 calls. They start making calls to numbers that go straight to voicemail just to hit those metrics, right?
Yeah.
The quality
of marketing. When you tell marketing they have to create 200 MQLs, guess what they do? They make funny videos on LinkedIn.
That's a whole other. The social side of things is a lot harder to track to me, right? But like,
so that's actually where I was going. That was my follow-up, right? How does using humor on LinkedIn help a brand, a person, whatever, actually create more than just goodwill? Like, it actually gets people down a path of thinking about buying.
I think a lot of it's kind of like above the funnel to me, social. Like, they're not quite customers yet, but when they will go, when they are ready to become customers, they remember that stupid Will guy who's been jumping around on LinkedIn for days. Oh, doesn't Will sell that video software, Vidyard? Doesn't he do that? So I think it's creating that mind share before that. And sometimes there's an opportunity to educate people on their issues as well, highlight issues they're not aware of, get them thinking about problems that maybe they weren't actively thinking about, or maybe they knew about but weren't actively trying to solve yet because they didn't realize how easy or simple it would be to solve them. So for me, social is a lot of mind share, and it is much harder to measure. But like I said earlier, when I was creating content as a sales rep, I saw a direct impact on my pipe. People were reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, well, can I grab a demo of Proposify?" Which is where I was working at the time. Or they would actually go onto the website, request a demo, and put in the notes section, "We want Will as our rep." Or during the sales cycle, I would meet with someone, they'd be cold as ice on the discovery call or whatever we did. And then I'd get back on the demo with them, and they'd seen 2 of my videos since then. They're like, "Will, what's up?" Like, on sales and marketing, that was hilarious. And then like you've built that, it's relationship building on the side. It's a lot of stuff that's a lot harder to measure, but it's definitely there. Anyone who's done this well can attest to this. And it's the same reason all these CEOs and sales trainers and everyone are active on that, because it gets them in front of the right people, and it gets people thinking about them, and it gets them name recognition, so that when people are ready to start looking or buying, well, guess what? They're the first person you think of.
All right. I have a question on that point, right? Because lots of sales leaders, lots of marketing leaders want their employees out there on LinkedIn developing a personal brand. And lots of them have lots of input about what you should be saying and not saying about your personal brand. And does it meet the standard? Do you speak to our values and these kinds of things? How do you think about that as someone who's using humor, which is very subjective, in that kind of thing? Like how much is too much guidance on building a personal brand?
I don't think you can make people build a personal brand. It doesn't work that way. If you tell someone to do it, it's just not going to be them. It's not going to be authentic. So I would say this whole idea of like, oh, I want my team to be all social selling and building a personal brand and posting on LinkedIn. If you force it, they're going to put out like articles that don't make sense and like, just sharing company content, which will end up with one like and someone else in the company, right? What's the point? It's just a waste of time. They would have been better off sending emails and making cold calls.
Yep.
However, it's when you have someone who's willing to go out there, I think it's about enabling those people to the max. So if you have someone, if you have a Jake, a John, or a Will, and they're like, I'm posting it, and you see them start to actually take initiative to start doing this, it's about doubling down on that and be like, okay, let's see how we can make this work for you. And I think you do have to relinquish some control. And for large brands, I know this is a lot harder because they've got big things to protect. But set those expectations up front. Same in sales. Say, okay, here's what you can and can't talk about. Don't take it that far. I've had people message me saying, hey, Will, my company's asked me to stop engaging with your content because you dropped an
Stop
F-bomb.
engaging with your content?
It was Salesforce. They told one of their reps to not engage with my content because I dropped an F-bomb once.
Whoa!
I've been bleeping since then for the F-bombs because I don't want to isolate my audience, but like those big corporations are going to be a lot more worried about this.
Yeah.
But then again, there are top reps at Salesforce who are killing on social, right?
Yeah.
They're just not. I think that it's understanding that I wouldn't recommend most people do what I did. To be honest, it's very risky. I was lucky that it took off and I did it for long enough, and I had an employee who supported me doing this on the side, mainly because I was already hitting quota, right? So like, if I'd been doing all this and making videos and putting them on LinkedIn while I was underperforming, my boss would be like, "What are you doing, man?" Because I was already doing well, I could get away with going on LinkedIn and making silly videos and whatnot in my free time, or even sometimes in the company time.
So that brings me to my next point, right? So when we're thinking about activities you own as a salesperson, right? Because you start the process, you follow the process, but you can't really control the output sometimes. Some deals just don't close, you do everything right. Which activities do you like? I obviously now you prefer making videos, but like when it comes to cold calling, sending videos, doing DMs, cold emails, what do you think is the activity that has got the best bang for your buck right now for salespeople to get meetings?
Well, to get good meetings, qualified meetings.
Right? Yes, good meetings.
I think it's really hard to say because I think honestly you need to be doing all those things. For me, the most success I saw actually in selling was LinkedIn, but I think that's because I was tied in well with my social selling side of things and having that personal brand. But I was also making use of voice notes and videos, and it's kind of like to me, social media is like the Swiss Army knife where you have all these different methods. It's one channel, but you have all these different ways you can stand out. And so many people aren't sending videos. They're not sending voice notes. They're not, even in emails in their sequences. You can easily add a video into your sequence, and that will increase response rates every time. However, it wouldn't on its own. It wouldn't do that. It's all of those things.
Yes.
So back in the day, my first step was always I would connect with someone on LinkedIn, get my name in front of them a little bit, and then I'd cold call them, and then I'd leave a voice mail that says I'm going to send you an email, and then I'd send them an email, and then I'd cold call them the next day after that, and then I would drop them a video in response to that email there, and that was where I got the most responses. But I don't think if I had just started the video, I don't think it would have had the same effect. So it really is about that multi-channel approach. But to me, if you're going to strip away everything, I would pick social media every time because of the diversity in the ways that you can reach people, and the fact that I'm
good at it. Thank God you're funny.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a good question here. Dylan asked this, right? So the question is here: if you are making content for a company that you're working at, what happens when you change companies? Do you risk pigeonholing yourself and being just the sales tech guy, just the marketing tech guy? Like, do you have any thoughts, or is that a valid concern? Is that head trash?
This is something I thought about because people ask me like, "Oh, Will, I want to build a personal brand to social sell." And I'm like, "Okay, who do you sell to?" And they're like, "HR." And I'm like, "How much do you know about HR?" And they're like, "Nothing." And then so if you're selling HR tech one day and you're selling sales software the next, then that's why I think there's nuances to all of this. I think I was in a better position to make content as a rep because I was selling to sales leaders and they're very active on LinkedIn. I think the same thing could be said for marketing leaders. And also probably HR and recruiters as well, because all those people are really active on LinkedIn. If you're selling to engineers, it's going to be much harder for you to build a personal brand in that space. One, because most salespeople don't know squat about engineering and couldn't do all that relatability or tips to help people.
Yeah.
But even then, I wouldn't even worry about that too much. I think you can, as sellers, we have this unique position to speak to our audience more because we're talking to customers every single day, and they probably only know what their world. But if you're selling to, let's say, marketing leaders and you're a salesperson, well, you're actually talking to 10 marketers a week. That's more than that one marketer speaking to, I imagine. So you can start to identify some trends. And it's about learning, writing that down, and then trying to make a lesson for that. You use your unique position in that space to then make niche content for them, because you're talking to more marketers than most marketers do. So that would be my thought process. But I will say it's much easier to build a personal brand if you're selling to sales marketing.
Well, do you think, because like I've seen a fair bit of your content, and like I feel like you really just talk about being a salesperson. Now, sure, you go in on some sales leadership topics and you can do some stuff like that, right? But like your personal brand is about how you deal with the process of being a salesperson out there, you know, and the humor in it and things like that, which translates as long as you're in sales, right? That content lives on and still has merit, if you will. I mean, obviously, you switch careers. That's something different. But do you think that there's a difference between posting content that you think your audience wants to see versus personal brand content that is still effective for your audience?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, I do. I think you could be more or less intentional with that kind of thing. Like, for example, I know some people who do sell HR tech who make funny employee recognition videos. And that's obviously about them, but they have a good personal brand as a seller as well.
Right.
So to me, like, personal brand doesn't necessarily have to be about generating pipeline. It can just benefit you in other ways. For example, you get to meet kind folks like yourselves, right? I wouldn't have done that if I wasn't posting on LinkedIn. You get a lot more job offers. You get a bit more security there because people know you and people want the folks who are willing to go out and put themselves out there like this. So I would really, if you were going to start, be clear about what you want to get out of it. Are you thinking about pipeline for your audience? And in that case, who is it? And will they be your audience forever? Are you passionate about HR recognition and employee recognition and retention, right? Is that where you see yourself being forever? Even if it's not, maybe it's still worth giving this a little experiment. Someone who's good at this, I imagine we're live on LinkedIn right now. A guy called... why did I not have his name ready? Ryan Awardco. Okay, Ryan Sudweek's Awardco. That's what I'm thinking of right now. He creates content for HR people. And nothing groundbreaking, but it's very relatable and funny. I think it's because he talks to a lot of HR leaders that he gets that side of things.
I'd like to shift gears for just a second and talk about your tech, because I'm a technical guy and I love tech and stuff like that. So really quick, what kind of camera are you using right now, and what do you normally film with?
Yeah, the camera I'm using right now is very overkill. It was provided to me by my video producer. It's a Blackmagic design Pocket Cinema 4K with a ridiculously expensive Canon lens on it. Couldn't tell you the Canon lens what it is. But the majority of content, I film all my long form content and webinars on this camera. It's fixed. I don't really move it around that much because it's great to show up on a call or webinar looking incredible.
Yep.
No big deal, whatever. But most of it is done by my phone. My phone is my personal brand. Yeah. So all the content you see from me on LinkedIn is generally filmed on my phone.
That's rad. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you don't need a big expensive camera. You don't need a big expensive setup. You just need a phone.
I'm a big believer in having a nice setup anyway. But yes, if you wanted to start today, you don't need anything but the phone in your pocket. You can even buy an iPhone 9 for like $50, and that could give you a second camera, and that's immediately going to improve your setup. And it's got a better camera than most webcams for sure.
Yep. Absolutely.
So you don't need all this. You can buy a $15 ring light from Amazon, and that will generally come with a phone attachment. You can't see this right now, but I've got one strapped like that. Or you can go ahead and spend $100 on box lights and all this stuff.
Interesting. Do you have a separate mic for your desk setup?
Yeah, I do. I use a Rode boom mic, which just sits directly above. You can see the bottom actually. I've mispositioned that, but normally it's just a little bit off camera. And that gives you really crisp audio. And then I have a an audio splitter here as well. But when I'm filming on my phone, I use the phone mic as well. So
Interesting. Okay. Any other tech, any other like hardware tech, software tech that you have found to be extremely valuable, helpful, fruitful in creating video and getting it out there?
yes, mainly editing software. If you want to take your stuff to the next level, I really like. Out of everything I do, I'm surprised at how much I enjoy editing videos. I can get lost in it, and I'll be having a good time for 6 hours, and then I'm like, oh, it's 3 a.m. I've been editing this YouTube video for that long. I use DaVinci Resolve. I really like it as a program for editing. But other than that, most of the time, if you're building on TikTok or LinkedIn, TikTok has some pretty good editing features built into it already. So that's why I think so many people use it, because it's so intuitive. So that could be a really good place to start as well, is just pull out your phone, open TikTok, use the editor, and that will allow you to film great, engaging portrait content. And then you can just repost that to LinkedIn and YouTube and all these other places as well.
We have a shameless plug here in the comments from Garen over here. Garen, I'm sure the check is in the mail, good friend. So
Garen's got some great, like if you're looking to get a setup like this one, Garen's got some really good, a lot of the time and potentially money spent looking for a good setup. You could buy the wrong thing. Garen will vet your stuff for you. He's got a really good micro studio. So if you just want to just buy something that's all ready for you and get taught on how to use it, I really recommend Garen's stuff.
wow, that's awesome.
Nice.
Let's see here. We have some other stuff here. Okay, cool. Sales side. What tech do you use as a salesperson? What tech do you hate as a salesperson?
Okay, so I love the three pieces of tech. I used to have like the best tech stack in the world at my last company. I was so lucky. Orem was a power dialer, AI parallel dialer, which meant as an account executive, I could sit down for an hour and make 200 dials, which I would not have had time to do it manually if I was selling as a just manually dialing, or even just like click the dial. So I'm really big fan of those power dialers. They actually make cold calling a lot more worth it. I could have like 12 conversations in an hour, which there was no way.
You're not going to replicate that manually for sure.
Yeah, and I've also used Connect and Sell there in that kind of similar category there. So something like that will make cold calling a lot easier for the team. Chili Piper just makes the process of booking meetings so much easier and giving suggested times, and also inbound lead routing. I'm a really anti-fan of giving your hottest leads to an SDR to qualify. That drives me nuts as a rep when I get a customer who's irate because they've been put through this qualification process,
and it's bad and dense and heavy-handed,
and it's clear like they're like a sales VP at a 500 person company. We know they're a fit. They don't need qualifying. Just send them straight to me. Chili Piper lets you do that inbound lead flow, so if they do meet certain criteria, go straight to an AE, which I think makes the conversation
that is right.
And then I'm a big fan of a couple of others. Vidyard, just sending videos to people, getting the tracks and the opens makes it easier.
There it is. We can cross the Vidyard plug off the list.
We actually use Vidyard. We're big fans of Vidyard. So.
Well, their names on my T4, so I've got to mention them. And then Lavender are another tool that I do a lot of tech reviews. Lavender is one that I really like. I think emails are becoming so important for sales teams, and we coach so much on cold calls. Managers love listening to cold calls, but they very rarely take a real close look at how good your emails are. I think emails are becoming more important. And for emails, you can book loads of meetings with them, and the bar is so low. It's so easy to write a good email that's going to make 99% of emails look bad. It's quite hard to get good at cold calling. You need to do it a lot more. Whereas emails, like that's low hanging fruit. Like that's a low bar for you to jump over. So work on your emails and use tools like that to make them better.
Yeah. So I'll admit definitely that when John and I were talking back a couple years ago, and he was trying to get me to be more outbound, because I'm a long-time marketing guy who's come into sales in the last year or two in training, stuff like that. I totally cheated and leaned on my copywriting skills and did outbound email first. I was not calling, but it was so much easier for someone like me who John would. I'm actually curious. Sorry, John, you were about to jump into a question. I had one more thought. Was do you know, personality-wise, like how your personality fits into the way that you do outreach?
I haven't thought about it that much. However, I did use this really cool tool recently called Crystal Knows, which gave me a disc profile.
Yeah.
And it can also give you an idea of who your prospect, what they like as well.
Yep.
And how you might sell together. I thought that was really cool. It was like the second episode, but I can't watch the video now because the audio delay that I accidentally put on the video it drives me nuts because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah. Is that what you're thinking of, Jake? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, because I was just thinking, because John used to like dive deep into this disc stuff for sales. He still does, actually, but yeah, I was just curious.
So okay, talking about email being low-hanging fruit and stuff like that, and an easier thing. So how important do you think the craft of copywriting is for sellers to go at least dabble in and play with? Figure out some direct response stuff. Some things around that.
I'm biased on this question because I suck at copywriting. I know I do. Writing is not my talent. It's why I make video content. But I do dabble in making content every now and then. I think copywriting is important. However, I think don't overcomplicate it to a certain extent. Well, if you can write a really well-crafted, I suppose this is copywriting in a way. I think it's more important of like the structures you use, like observations about customers, how you turn that into a story about and segue. The segues are really like the connector phrases and segues are what I'd be thinking about as a sales rep, because a lot of people struggle to connect like relevance, observations, personalization to their product. That's a skill which I think technically is copywriting, I think, but how you do that is going to be more important to me than like being able to write a book, let's say.
Okay.
So I think that's copywriting, but I'm super dyslexic, so like I just words are something I struggle with when I'm starting to write stuff.
Interesting. Like video is a unique struggle for me because I don't think in a video context, right? And so it took me a very long time to get comfortable with it. Whereas like writing, I can sit down, like I could write you 2,000 words right now about pretty much any topic that we've talked about today, like without a problem at all. But like you put me in front of a video and turn it on and produce video live, I'm okay because I do so much Zoom and meetings and stuff like this now. It's not any big deal. But like the minute it's like, okay, cool, like let's go make something.
Yeah.
I lock up.
That's really true as well. Video is tough, especially when you're self-critical and you have to watch it back and then you have to put it out there. Like that's not a natural process, which is why a lot of the clients I work with on TikTok, I will jump on a recording studio with them. I'll get them to pull up their phone and then I'll make it a conversation. So I'll ask them questions. I'm like, and then like what they say, I can make into a TikTok that sounds like they were talking to camera, because it's just a lot easier to do it this way when we're having a conversation like this, rather than pull out your phone and repeat yourself 8 times and re-record and then still be not happy with the end product. Whereas when it's more conversation, it's a lot easier.
Are you a one-take guy, Will?
No. If it was, I'd be able to make a lot more content. It depends. It really normally I do it 2 or 3 times at least. My long form content, I can't afford to repeat every line. So when I'm doing a YouTube video or a product review, those are more likely one take. But if I mess up, for example, like I just did, and I was filming a video, I would probably repeat that line and then switch up in post.
Do you have like I talk about this with like salespeople, right? It is like the KPIs kind of become your pulse, right? Like this shows up in different ways, right? So for now, with you making video, do you have any like, I need to get one this week. I need to do one. I need to do 4 this month. Like, do you have any like has that same sort of thing happened around like KPIs and like things around your video creation? Or am I just a weirdo?
I think I needed the KPIs. When I joined, my boss was like, "Go ahead and do it." And I was like, "No, I need more than that. I need you to tell me what your expectations are." Rolled up into goals because I'm just too. If you don't do that, then it won't get done to me. Like that's how I always feel about those things. So I had to introduce KPIs for myself, which were more activity focused. So like 1 video a day on TikTok at minimum. Now I do 2. At least 2 posts on LinkedIn every day for sales feed, 1 for myself generally. And that's more a KPI I've set for myself. And then 1 YouTube video a week as well. And then I help out with a lot of other stuff as well. So we have some larger projects that I write scripts for. I jump on a lot of webinars and events and podcasts. So those are more ad hoc. But yeah, I set those for me. And then those roll up into like goals that are a result of that, like followers, views, engagement is really important. So
Cool.
yes, I have activity benchmarks that I strive to hit, and if I don't, then I feel horrible about myself. So I try and get ahead of those as much
As you should. Yeah.
Yeah,
Toxic productivity.
exactly. Right?
Right.
So when is your daughter coming?
She's going to be arriving in November.
November. Okay. So with a new baby on the way and already having one, this is the stuff that Jake and I like to geek out about. How do you get some of your time back without sacrificing the output? You know, you said that you enjoy editing video, but it also can be hours and hours and hours. Are you looking at anything like that, like trying to build in some time savings? So with the new kid coming,
I know I need to make some tweaks there because it's tough enough being a father of one and making sure he gets all the love he deserves.
Mhm.
And to be honest, there are things that I'm probably at this point. My pay rate isn't worth me sitting in front of a computer and editing videos. It would be better off outsourcing that. I'm a control freak, so I think it's going to be a point of like taking a step back from that. Like I've done like 14 tech talk tech reviews now. I had one get edited by an external editor, and like they edited the worst parts into the video, and I was like, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that, and I think that's something I probably need to let go of now. Thinking about the fact I'm gonna have some time off and I'm gonna have less time on my hands. I will probably need to walk back on some of that stuff, but I think it's about looking back. I probably should have met with the editor and had some more expectations, or maybe even spoke to a few different editors. So I'll be tweaking that because right now it just doesn't make sense to have someone who my value isn't editing. I'm not the best video editor anymore, but I'm probably one of the best sales humor people in the world. So I should be doing more of that and less of mundane video editing. But I really enjoy it, which is why I struggle to walk away from that as well.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think it's important to fall in love with that side of it, to put in those time and that reps editing of yourself, so that way when you do get to outsource it, you can manage those expectations. I mean, you can communicate those expectations because we have them, obviously. You know, we just don't always communicate them.
Yeah, I do. Because if you look at my first video versus now, I'm so happy with what I put out now. I'll probably feel horrible about it in a year again because we will get better over time. But it sets that benchmark of like, this is how I want it to look. And if you get to the point where you have full control over it, then I think giving an editor a brief and saying, hey, like, this is how I like my videos edited. You can see what I've done here. Go replicate that as close as you can. But then again, like, yeah. I don't know.
You can do that without actually doing the editing too, right? You could find other content you like and be like, hey, I really like how this, and this happens.
Yes.
And this happens. So let's make it something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You could find something inspiration and be like, I want to have it look like this. But the issue is as well that a lot of editors don't have subject matter experience on sales. So they don't know what's good content and what's bad content. And when I film 2 hours of footage and it needs to get down to a 10-minute video, knowing what out of that 2 hours was good is really important. And for me to just go ahead and review that 2 hours of footage, I could have half finished the edit by that point. So that's the other bit challenge I have in my mind. I would want to go through and say, include this, this, and this. But by the time I've done that, I may as well have just opened up my editor and got halfway done, right? I think that's the challenge.
I think
that's the first that's the first step down bad leadership and micromanagement. You know what? This is just easier if I do, right? Like, think about how many sales leaders are like, man, this kid's gonna blow this deal. It's just easier if I get in there and close it and stuff like that. And then you know, the green salesperson doesn't get the opportunity to like fail and learn from it. So interesting.
Yeah, that's why one more piece of tech that we can throw in there is things like Fathom or Chorus or those things where it will actually mark the stuff for you, and you can create rules where you say certain words and things like that. So you can just go back in 10 minutes or less, go that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those are good ideas.
Does going back and listening to yourself on cold calls and sales videos and stuff like that, does that make it easier to watch yourself in the creative thing on the edits? Because I can't edit myself, because I'll do a version of the same thing of, I'm just going to wait until this is good, so I'll come back to it, right? And I won't put any volume in.
I think that is a skill that most people don't have. You know, going back and being able to listen to your own call and actually, it's a horrible experience to listen to your own voice. So I think like that, yes, definitely listening to my own calls, having those critiqued by my sales manager, watching them a lot myself to try and remove filler words and stop asking stupid questions. definitely helped me create better content and video because I was less critical of myself. So therefore I had less imposter syndrome, and therefore I was more willing to hit that post button.
Makes sense. Okay. So we got about 5 minutes left. I want to be super respectful of your time. I'm sure you have lots of, back to sleep stuff you're going to go do after this because, you're not a salesperson anymore. So you're going to get up later on in the afternoon to craft some videos, I'm sure.
That's time.
One of the questions that we got, or one of the comments that we got, because I put a poll out here asking people what we should talk about with you. And somebody was talking about humor being a process, humor being something you can develop. Do you think anybody can be humorous in their content? And do you think that everybody should try? There it is. Finally, a good question.
Some people just aren't funny. Like, it's mean, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. But if you want to get good at stuff, I always find seek inspiration. So I feel like if you wanted to be funnier, if that was a goal of yours, go watch a bunch of comedians. Go subscribe to my TikTok channel. Right now.
Yeah.
I don't think content has to be that funny. Like, there are people who have created entire careers about making one joke. But
that's true.
I think comedy is endearing. I think it's a relationship builder. I think it's relatable. I think it helps. One thing I came ready to talk about today is there's a difference between creating sales humor content and using humor in sales.
Yeah,
when you get on a call with a prospect and you're joking back and forth and you're having some banter with them, you're in a good spot, right? That really does help. So I feel like if that's part of you, then lean into that. And if it's not, then and you want to get better, then go and seek inspiration. But if you're not funny, then you don't need to be. You don't need to be. It's okay to just be
man.
yourself. That'll be
you said something in there that I just can't, because I'm the habit building dude, right? So how does someone practice meaningfully at humor? How do they rep that? How do they practice?
I couldn't tell you. I've been funny my whole life. I was born funny. Just talk to people, right? We're doing it right now. We're practicing having a little laugh out here, right? That's why I'm wearing the LinkedIn hoodie, okay? Okay? I'm built different. But yeah, you got to just practice, right? So go ahead. If you want to get good at anything, repetition is the key. If you want to get good at cold calling, you need to make thousands of cold calls. I hate to tell you it, but people are like, cold calling is dead. Well, how many calls do you make? 50. Oh, wow. Video in sales doesn't work. How many videos do you send? 3. Okay, right. They were probably trash. If you want to get good at anything, you have to practice. And the best way to practice humor is making jokes. And the best way to think about jokes is look for inspiration. The same way if you were joining a new team and you want to get good at sales, you would probably go look what the high performers were doing, right? So go find funny people, talk to them, listen, tune in, and then go and make that your own.
Awesome. Will, man, thank you so much, dude, for doing this. This has been a blast. I really appreciate the inside look. Man, really, really cool. Jake, any last questions, concerns, alibis, thoughts?
No, man, I enjoyed it. Just thanks for being here and sharing a little bit more about, honestly, the part that most people are curious about, which is I just don't understand the humor stuff. A lot of people have a hard time figuring that out.
Yeah, for sure. What are you doing this weekend, Will? Anything cool? Anything exciting?
Renovations. I've got a lot of yard work to do. I'm going to plant some grass seed. Fun stuff, right?
Fun dad stuff. Yeah.
Fun dad stuff. Probably take a bike ride with my boy. Take him to the lake or something for a swim. That kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that self-care outside of the role is super important as well. And that's the other part we talk about this thing. You can be a high performer in work. You got to be a high performer in your family life, right?
You got to figure out what fills your cup as well, because otherwise you're just going to be running on empty the whole time. And going down to the lake and throwing my son in and him screaming is exactly what fills my cup. So.
There's the nugget right there. It's got to fill the cup. That's awesome. Man, thank you so much, Will. This has been a blast, dude. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday. Jake, you're good on your bet. I'm good on my bet. We'll talk new bets next week. And yeah, thank y'all so much. Y'all are awesome. Enjoy your days, gents.
Thanks so much for having me on. Good to meet you, Jake.
Same.
Turn this off. See you guys.